Tom's River Show. Pat O Melia here. You there? That's why I do this show, because I know you're there. And I do this to inform you, entertain you, educate you. A horrible subject we're going to talk about today is the disastrous, heinous crime of a mass murder again at a school in Texas on the heels of the mass shooting in Buffalo at a supermarket. That is probably going to be the entire show. I would like to get to Sheriff Mastronardi and George Gilmore. They're going to get it on, game on with these guys. But it's hard to ignore these shootings and that they're being done by 18-year-olds. And when I started writing the show, I actually had to stop when I realized I had so much information now. Probably I can do an hour show here. But I want to talk a little bit about Mike and George going at it and May and November elections. I don't know if I'll get to that since we have so much information to discuss with the mass shootings involving kids. Remember, everything you see on the bottom of the screen. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Love us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. And don't forget our base streaming network, live stream, Vimeo. We archive all our shows there. And it's free, the app. And there's a ton of other programming there. So just put it on the app. You can watch all our stuff and other people's stuff. Like I said, George Gilmore, the former chair of the Ocean County GOP, has made it official. He is running for the chairmanship, his old job again. Mike Mastronardi has also announced, he is the sheriff for Ocean County. He's also up for election this year, that he would like the seat also. I like both these guys. I don't really know George Gilmore personally, but I know George Gilmore from covering politics for so many years. When it comes to politics, George Gilmore is the smartest guy in the room. Sheriff Mastronardi, Mike, is a cop's cop. He is a very good cop. I think I went through this a couple of weeks ago when there was speculation on this. I don't think this is the right job for Mike Mastronardi, because no matter what you do, more than likely as the chair of one of these organizations, you're going to get jammed up. And at this stage of Mike's career, where he is a iconic law professional, just do another 4 years as sheriff and right out into the sunset like the sheriffs of law, right out there, comfortable and not putting up with any of the BS that happens when you're running a political organization, and it's almost a good 50-50 chance you get jammed up, whether you did something wrong or your organization did. All right, let's break for commercial. You're watching the Tom's River Show. I'll be right back. Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunley Avenue, Jersey City. Hudson County's only monument maker, serving all faiths and cemeteries. Design, studio, and large inventory on site. Cemetery inscriptions and custom orders welcome. Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunley Avenue, just south of Secaucus Road. Craftsmanship that will last for all eternity. Burns Brothers, Jersey City, Albert H. Hopper, North Arlington. Visit us on the net. We're back. Pat O Melia, Tom's River Show. You remember, just for the brief commercial. All right. On a somber note and a sorrowful note, on the heels of the Buffalo mass shooting, where an 18-year-old kid killed, 10, I think the count was 10, and injured many others at a top supermarket in Buffalo. And it's astonishing an 18-year-old would do something. I don't understand the hate that these kids have in their heart to kill innocent people they don't know. And the only thing probably more heinous than killing a bunch of adults is killing children, 8, 9-year-old kids, and that just occurred. We had a horrible situation on Ortley Beach. It was Ortley or Lavalette? I think it was Ortley. Where the 18-year-old brother and a 17-year-old sister were digging a hole in the sand on the beach with frisbees, and they dug like a 10-foot by 10-foot hole, which is pretty remarkable with frisbees. And it fell in on him, and the young 18-year-old kid passed on. Our prayers go out to the family, and the 17-year-old sister was saved. She'll never be the same for witnessing what happened with her brother. That's what 18-year-old kids are supposed to do. Goofy stuff, enjoy themselves, enjoy their youth, have fun at the beach this summer. That's what they should be thinking about. It's unfortunate what happened to this young man here in the Jersey Shore. But that's what 18-year-olds are supposed to be doing. I never agreed that you should be in the military at 18 unless they wanted to sign up. You know, in New Jersey, we kind of, you can be kind of an adult at 18, but not really until 21, you know. You know, we got 18-year-olds who are committing mass murder. They can't buy cigarettes yet or buy a drink, but they can kill. And the thing is, why did these kids, and it's fairly a recent occurrence where kids are killing kids, or even the kids are being killers. You know, it's astonishing, and this is at a grade school that this just occurred. And as of this taping, you know, they're still sorting all this out. We have 19 kids, children. I'm going to say kids in this case. Children, 8, 9-year-old children are dead, shot dead. 2 teachers also, more than likely protecting their students, are dead. The shooter started out this rampage by wounding his grandmother. I don't know, again, we don't know the family situation. Everything is still, you know, drips and drabs coming out. As of this taping, the grandmother is still alive. So we may get a little more background. The shooter is dead. He was taken down by a Border Patrol agent. You know, was the school this kid's target? He crashed his pickup truck. Yeah, was it, you know, my truck's crashed, let me go kill something. He's armed to the gills, and he's wearing, you know, protective armor. As of this taping, we don't know if the school was the target. The grandmother was an employee there, at least till 2020, so he probably had some idea of the school, the layout of the school. He might have been a student there at one time. There just isn't enough information right now. I'm not sure if the school was the target or just a target of opportunity for somebody who had so much hate in his heart. That's what I can't get my head around. Why do these 18-year-old kids, the kid in Buffalo, the kid in Texas, and we've had other kids, you know, 17-year-old, 16-year-old, 20-year-old kids committing these heinous mass shootings. We have to understand why these kids have this much hate. I like working with kids. We're about to roll out some programs in our North Bergen studio where we're going to work with high school kids. We'll probably get the North Bergen program going first because we have a studio there and we're going to work with high school kids, juniors and seniors, in sports programming. You know, there aren't many newspapers anymore, so there's not a lot of coverage of the high school sports, at least in Hudson County. There's only one daily newspaper. There's only like 8 pages. So what we're talking about doing, what I'm talking about doing with the schools is we'll put together what's called right now the North Bergen Sports and Entertainment Network, where these kids are going to cover the games. They're going to do everything in television production. They're going to go out and cover the games. We're probably going to do the internet radio where they'll call balls and strikes in the basket and the football games and all. We'll figure out what kids are going to work cameras, who's editing, who the talking heads on the show. There'll be complete showrunners covering the sports, and we'll probably branch out to some other municipality events. That's where we threw the entertainment part in there. Maybe we'll do graduations or something like that. But for kids who want to get into sports broadcasting or broadcasting in particular, it's an ideal opportunity. The studio is there, and I try to work with all these municipalities. I might even do the same thing with Toms River. I'll talk to Mo Hill once we get these programs going. But we're also talking with Mayor Fulop. He's behind it. We're trying to find studio space for the kids in Jersey City, because I'm worried about sending these kids out to cover away games. I spoke to the mayors of both cities, said, you know, if these kids go out, we got to make sure they get out, they go to the game, and they get back safely. So I might even talk about cops taking them there. We'll work something out with, you know, super mayors like Mayor Sacco in North Bergen and Mayor Steve Fulop in Jersey City. we will work something out. Plus, they'll have the equipment for the internet radio broadcast. Like I said, the kids will be calling the baskets, they'll be calling the balls and strikes, they'll be calling the football plays, whatever it is. And they're going to bring all that footage back to the studio. They're going to edit it, and they'll put a sports program together with the help of my guy, John, who's editing this show. And we'll teach them every step of this. They'll learn lighting, they'll learn cameras, they'll learn everything. So when they're going to college and they put their application in, they're going to have a lot of experience. When they go on in life, what they learned working with us, these high school kids, will help them get a job at MLB, MSNBC, whatever network is. For a while, the interns with me and people who started with me, Fios was taking my people. Hudson Media had a very good reputation for training. And we do a good job because we don't let you stuff envelopes or answer phones. We throw you into the deep end of the pool. You're working cameras, you're doing lights, you're putting desks, you're designing sets and all that. I like working with these kids. For that matter, one of my anchors right now is one of my former North Bergen kids that came into the studio working with us. You'll see her on some of the recaps that we do. I like working with these kids. I don't understand the hatred that these kids, and these the same age, these 18-year-olds, high school, have. I'm going to break the commercial, and we'll be right back. Consumer Carpets, 3408 Kennedy Boulevard in the Jersey City Heights, your one-stop store for residential and commercial floor treatments, carpeting, linoleum, tiles, laminates, hardwood floors, area rugs, remnants, all major brands, all in stock. Free estimates, same-day installation. Consumer Carpets, it's savings, selection, installation. Credit cards and debit cards accepted. Financing available. Consumer Carpets, price to fit your budget, installation to fit your schedule. On the net at consumercarpets.com. Consumer Carpets, Jersey City, 201-792-2712. We're back. Pat O Melia here. Tom's River Show. Don't forget everything on the bottom of the screen. Like us, love us, subscribe to us. Like I said, probably the beginning of the next school year, we'll be working with a bunch of high school kids. For that matter, Mayor Fulop just gave me a lead on space in Jersey City. We need to find out why these kids have this kind of hate in their heart. And it's not a southern thing. The Buffalo is a northern thing. It's not location. And as I said, I like working with kids. They keep me young. I don't see this kind of hate in these kids, but there is some hate there. What is causing this hate? It was said last night in the news shows, domestic terrorism. No, this is not domestic terrorism. These are stupid 18-year-old kids, goofy 18-year-old kids who, for whatever reason, have this kind of hate and have this kind of resolve to kill. They're not terrorists, and not with Al-Qaeda or skinheads or neo-Nazis or whatever group we used to talk about all the time, the Taliban, ISIS. Either kids, lone wolf, if you want to call it that. I don't want to call it terrorism because that lessens the impact of what happened on 9/11, and the Pentagon and those kind of terrorist attacks. These are goofy kids for some reason have made a horrible choice, and you have to have a lot of hate. Is it racism? An 18-year-old kid a racist? Looks like that would apply in Buffalo, but he's an 18-year-old kid. That can go from week to week what they're interested in. So I have a hard time with the racism. White supremacy? I doubt that because that was, a lot of white kids were killed in Texas. I don't see white supremacy. I never even met a white supremacist. But again, it brings me back, these are 18-year-old kids. They don't know their butt from their elbow yet. Most of them don't. Guns will be blamed for what occurred here. But it's not the guns. You're going to hear it's the Republicans' fault. It's not the Republicans. It's none of that's the fault there. I'm not a gun guy. But you have the right to defend yourself, your family, and your property. And that's a real right. That's the Second Amendment. I don't have a problem with banning assault weapons. Do you really need an AK-47 to defend your house or your property? Or your wife and kids? I don't think so. I'm sure if you have a 9mm, semi-automatic rifle or a shotgun, they'll do a pretty good job. And no goofy crap either where you're going to have the gun, but the the ammo has got to be a block away in a safe somewhere. No, if you're going to defend your house and your family, you got to have the ammo readily available. Can't tell a guy who has the gun and ammo in his gun already, break it in your house. Well, wait a minute, I got to go to the safe, turn the combo. You have the right. I don't think we need assault weapons. Well, I have a problem with assault weapon ban. But again, I'm not a gun guy. But again, it is your right. The Second Amendment. This is part of the founding aspects of the United States of America. The bottom line is, why are these kids killing kids? That's what we need to get down to. Going back at Columbine, I think that was 1999. And the Aurora Theater, I think that was around the same time, 1999. The Sandy Hook, the Adam Lanza, he was a 20-year-old kid. This is all kids killing kids. And the theater was dark. They didn't even know who the hell they were shooting. It was part of the trench coat mafia at that time. Why do these kids have this kind of hatred in their heart? Now, if you of a certain age, this didn't happen when we were kids. That was the first thing from my mind was any mass shootings when we were kids. Kids of this age, they should be thinking about girls, cars, sports, the summer fun, not killing kids. Why do these kids have this kind of hate? That's what we need to get down to. We have to understand this. And it's relatively something new. And unfortunately, it is becoming something that's common. We need to understand this. This isn't a case of some 50-year-old person that's burned out, who's blaming everyone but themselves for their self-created demons. No, these are 18-year-old kids in the last two cases in Buffalo and in Texas. When we were younger back in the 70s, the only thing we could compare this with was a workplace situation that was in the post office. Some postal mailmen, we used to go crazy, bring a gun to work and shoot everybody up. And we called it going postal then. That was the only thing that I recall even coming close to what's occurring at a rather common rate now with children killing children. This isn't your basic career criminal like the subway shooter, the most recent one in New York City, by the way. Had a long list of arrests, a long rap sheet, and he kept getting released. And he was on a train in New York, and he's pacing back and forth as the story's been told, and he's mumbling something. Then he walks in the next car and just shot someone randomly and killed this poor 49-year-old person. This guy was locked up, released, locked up, released, locked up, released, like 30, 40 times. The sign of insanity is repeating the same thing and expecting a different result. That's what happened when we keep releasing career criminals. That may be the case with mental situations too. Back in the 70s, you had the mental hospitals. We didn't have these mental situations on the street. In New York City, it's prominent. For that matter, just recently, I stopped to get lottery tickets in Seaside Heights. And somebody just stuck his head in my window. My wife was in the passenger seat, saying, "Oh, you got a beer for me?" I said, good thing he was on that side, because I couldn't reach him. So I just pulled the van away. I would hate to have myself put into a violent situation. But if my wife is being threatened, things can get violent. So there is a mental health issue that needs to be also investigated here. And like I said, when we were young, this didn't happen. And there were guns. Again, of my age, there were guns in the household. Heck, every house had a .38 caliber. Some had .45s. But nobody was running around taking Dad's gun or Uncle Bob's gun. That didn't happen. We didn't go out and shoot people up. If there was an incident, you had a fist fight and that was it. You're going to hear it's the Republicans' fault what happened here. It's not the Republicans' fault. But that'll be blamed. And God, it's going to get politicized also. And let's break the commercial, and we'll talk about what steps maybe that we can take. You're watching the Tom Driver Show. I'll be right back.
Stevens Jersey City Ford, certified parts and service located at Route 440 and Communipaw Ave, is your number one source for Ford and Lincoln automotive needs. We use certified Ford Motorcraft products to keep your Ford running in top shape. Motorcraft parts are backed with the Ford warranty, which includes a 2-year unlimited mileage guarantee. Our team will have the right Motorcraft part to ensure the best performance from your Ford or Lincoln. You can order in person at the parts counter or online. Let us help keep your Ford or Lincoln in the best shape at Stevens Jersey City Ford.
We're back. Pat O Melia here, Tom's River Show, and where it looks like all I got to talk about is this heinous crime. We're not getting to May versus November elections. We need to study what happened here. We need to study and release the results of what happened here in Texas, what happened in Buffalo, and let the public know, and let's act on this. Now, the knee-jerk reaction is always going to be, it's guns. That's not it. We need to know what happened to these kids. Why? There's talk of the kid in Buffalo being radicalized. He's 18 years old. He could be somethingized every week. There's also one of the news shows last night. I was watching everything. COVID. It could be a COVID thing. COVID. That's not it either. What we have happening here, with kids killing kids, been going on at least since 1999. That was Columbine. Is it a copycat issue in Texas? Maybe with Buffalo, but Buffalo could be also a copycat issue. But we don't know because I don't know if we effectively study what happens with these mass murderers, where we have kids shooting kids, or kids becoming murderers, mass murderers, and we ever release the results and we try to act on that. Are there red flags? I'm sure there are red flags with these kids. Would they miss it? But what's a red flag and what's a goofy 17-year, 18-year-old kid? That has to be distinguished. A kid in class in a hazmat suit for a couple of weeks? That's a red flag. I think so. You do it a couple of days, a goofy 18-year-old kid. You do a little longer than that, maybe the school counselor talks to the person. But you got to distinguish, and it's so hard because, it's the freedoms we have in the United States. What is a red flag and what is a goofy kid? But what is turning 17 or 18-year-old kids into murderers, mass murderers? Broken homes? That's possible. This kid apparently was living with his grandmother. But just because you're living with your grandmother or a single parent doesn't really mean it's a broken home. I, unfortunately, lost my mother when I was 8 and my father. And I broken home probably would have been good, They were foster homes, that sort of thing. I didn't turn to become a mass murderer. So I don't know if that's a reason. Economics. You can't afford to buy these guns, so I don't think it was a money problem. Video games and movies. Remember that? That was when these things first started, like in a Raw, video games. No, it's not the movies either. It's if you can't distinguish between a video game and a movie, you do have a mental issue. We need to work this problem. And, and the prayers and sympathies are great for everyone. You'll never make those families whole. The horror of losing a child, a 9-year-old kid, those people will never be right. Those students who've seen this may never be right. Nobody's ever going to be right who's involved in what happened in Texas and in Buffalo. We need to work that problem, not politicize it, not punish law-abiding gun owners. That's not the answer. Most of your gun crime is committed by people who don't care about the law. They're criminals. They don't care what the law is. They've got a gun and they want to commit a crime. They don't care what your gun laws are. We don't want to remove anyone's rights as an American. That's not the way to handle this. We need to understand what's going on in the minds of these kids. And make no mistake, these are kids. These are 18-year-old kids. Like I said, I enjoy working with these kids. But, there is a difference now, I think, from 18-year-old kids of today and what an 18-year-old kid was in the the 50s, 60s, and 70s. The kids I grew up with, we had a whole different mental aspect. Even the work we were doing when I was 18, working. The whole reason I worked was for cars and women. Girls. That was my whole life. I had a furnished room, studio, 1.5 room. That my whole life was pay the rent, get the car, hopefully get me some girls. That was the whole thing. Mass murder was nowhere in our thoughts of any of us. And it's amazing, coming out of the 70s, none of the guys that I grew up with, none of us got into drugs. We had Budweisers, we had our cars. Most of us had cars at a very young age. I had my first car at 13, but I had a whole different life because of the loss of my parents. None of us turned to shooting people. There was some, we weren't angels. We did get into scrapes here and there, and we broke a few laws here and there, but all victimless. Robbing a freight train, that sort of thing, some cars. Well, I guess stealing somebody's car isn't exactly victimless. But we were normal Jersey City kids. Nobody thinking of killing anybody. And we're going to work and shooting at the workplace or schools. It wasn't the mindset of us 18-year-olds in the 70s. And I'm sure it wasn't in the 60s or the 50s either, because it shouldn't happen. And make no mistake, there were guns in all the households. Nobody was taking those guns out and shooting anybody up. Now, there were no AK-47s in any of the households. Like I said, with 38s and 45s. Yeah, I think every father had a 38 at least, maybe a 45. I need to know what kind of hate, we need to know what kind of hate is in someone's heart that can kill an 18-year-old kid, a little 18-year-old girl. We just had a situation in New York, going back to New York City again, where an 11-year-old girl was shot, and she was a bystander, innocent victim, by a 15-year-old on a scooter. We have to understand what's happening to these kids. I need to understand what kind of hate someone has to look at a little 8-year-old girl and shoot them, cold-blooded, and another 8, 9-year-old kids. I don't understand that kind of hate. We need to understand that kind of hate so we can protect against that. We need to protect against that kind of hate, not Democrats or Republicans or law-abiding gun owners. We need to be careful how we're going to go forward. Do you want to turn your schools into jails, prisons, by having armed guards there? School should be a place of learning, enjoyment, fun, forging friendships. The fundamental part of our growth is from schools. It's what we learn from grammar school to high school to college. We don't need armed guards there. We gotta protect. We have to understand. This is becoming quite common. Like I said, this was kind of unheard of before the 90s with Columbine, and that kind of kicked all this off. We just can't move on to the next mass shooting. And we will, without understanding the last mass shooting. So we got to take the right steps. All right, we're on a show. You be good. You be safe. Please be safe. Enjoy the Memorial Day weekend. Remember what it represents. I'm Pat O Melia. I'll talk to you next week. Good night.